Lord of Life family, Pastor Matt here with this week's devotion. I'm in the prayer room here at Lord of Life, one of my favorite places in the church. Today, I'm going to talk about when I realized how big and enormous God is. A friend of mine right now is on vacation in Italy, and he's keeping a blog. I'm able to see photos of his trip, and it's wonderful because it's bringing back memories for me when I traveled to Italy when I was 20 years old by myself. I wanted to see what the human mind could do in art. And there's no better place than Italy, home of the Italian Renaissance. Michelangelo, Leonardo, Raphael, Donatello, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? Well, they have some incredible works in Italy, and it was fascinating. It was a great trip. And I toured the Vatican Museum where the Sistine Chapel is. I also went to the Roman Colosseum. I traveled up north to Florence to see the David sculpture that Michelangelo did. And everywhere that I turned, there was a painting, there was a sculpture, a church, all testifying to the fact that God has been here and that God is here and that He is global. He is universal. My wife and I went to Israel a little bit later on in 2011. We toured where Jesus walked in the footsteps of Christ. And we went to Bethlehem where He was born, to Nazareth where He grew up. We went into Jerusalem where He taught so many parables. And we walked in the footsteps of Christ. And again, it was a realization that God has been here, that He's the God of history, that He's the God of the nations, and He is here, omnipresent, everywhere at the same time. International travel really broadened my view of God, and it blessed my prayer life. This is what David wrote about how enormous God is in Psalm 24. The earth is the Lord's, and everything in it, the world, and all who live in it, for He founded it upon the seas and established it upon the waters. And His love for you is enormous, big enough to go to the cross for our sins, big enough to come back from the dead for the whole world. And now all of creation is groaning, waiting for the day of Christ to return. The stars, the sky, the land, the creatures, everything is groaning for the day when Jesus will come back to restore the whole universe. That's a big mission, and Jesus has accomplished it for us with His resurrection. His resurrected body is the beginning of the new creation, and one day we will see it in all of its glory. So I want you to know that Paul wrote these words to us to encourage us to know that God is big. This is what Paul wrote to the Colossian church. Through the Son, God decided to bring the whole universe back to Himself. That's awesome. So when you pray, remember that God is enormous. Sometimes our view of God is too small. We wonder if He's big enough to move mountains, big enough to cleanse us from sin, big enough to restore a relationship, or big enough to heal a sickness. He is, and He loves you, and His love for you is enormous. I pray that when you go to God in prayer, that you'll know how big He is, that His love for you is enormous, and that He is for you. Have a great week.